I'm Rich Andreski, Bureau Chief for Public Transportation at the Connecticut Department of Transportation. And I'd like to welcome you to Along the Lines, a podcast series where we'll explore current issues and ideas on Connecticut's public transportation system. Welcome to another episode of Along the Lines. I'm your host, Rich Andreski. Southeastern Connecticut is a very vibrant area of our state and home to world-class tourist attractions, several colleges and universities, and two federally recognized Native American tribes. Tourism is the region's largest industry, as millions of people from around the world come to visit the Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods resort casinos, Mystic Aquarium, Mystic Seaport, and the beaches of Long Island Sound. But you can't talk about Southeastern Connecticut without mentioning the defense industry, including the U.S. Naval Submarine Base, General Dynamics Electric Boat, and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. Also important are the manufacturing and biotech sectors that are also factoring into the region's economic dynamics. Southeast Connecticut is a very special place indeed. So what does transportation look like in this part of our state? And how is transportation playing a role in its evolution? Joining me today to help answer those questions are Kate Rattan, Transportation Program Manager for the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments, and Felix Reyes, Director of Economic Development and Planning with the City of New London. Kate and Felix, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
So excited to jump into this conversation. Kate, let's start with you. Can you explain for our listeners what is the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments and what role does it play in our region?
Sure. A Council of Governments in Connecticut is an organization that brings together the chief elected officials and the professional managers from member municipalities. And ours was formed in 1992, and it represents 22 municipalities and over 286,000 people. And we're unique in that our COG also has non-voting members in the military from the Navy and the Coast Guard, as well as the two federally recognized tribes, both the Mashantuckets and the Mohegan tribes.
So Felix, maybe if you could take a minute too to introduce yourself and your role in the economic development and planning for the City of New London.
Sure. So thank you for having me again. So I work for the City of New London. This is my hometown, born and raised, beautiful, rich, vibrant waterfront community, as you mentioned, with some of the best beaches, manufacturing along the. If you're from London, it's the Thames River, but if you're local, it's the Thames River here. Arts and culture is the market. It's why people come to New London. I feel these days we have a beautiful, diverse, historic downtown and population. So there's a lot to work with. Our city is 400 years old. And it's funny when we talk transportation and Kate in our office, we work very close together. And when you're planning a very old city, we don't have the luxury of having, the old Roman style gridded streets. It's much like Boston and old intersections and kind of a spaghetti system. So it has a lot of character, and very proud to be working for the city as the director of planning. We have beautiful people, beautiful sounds, smells, restaurants, people that I get the pleasure to see and work with every day. So I'm loving it. I've been with the city now for 3 years, a little over 3 years now, and working for my hometown is an absolute privilege and honor.
Felix, you arguably better than most folks have your ear to the ground in terms of what's coming. What are you hearing from employers and developers in your area in terms of what's to come in the next few years, and how does transportation play a role in that future vision?
Sure. So I think we're in the phase that we're not hearing so much. We're actually seeing it, which is good. I mean, for many years, it's all about this, the P word I always say that I hate to say all the time in New London is the potential. People always talked about, God, it's just this diamond in the rough, but we're actually seeing things happening. So right now, we're close to about $1 billion in projects and construction projects in our pipeline. That is state, federal, municipal projects. That's private investment that is coming in. We're seeing a lot of our historic buildings change over with new ownership. We're seeing a lot of adaptive reuse. Our housing market is probably one of the top, when leading in regards to number of units and pipeline in the region. And of course, that has all to do with jobs. I always like to kind of reference this cycle or this phasing of what comes first, and everything comes after industry and jobs. That's what really attracts people, and that really drives the housing market. Whether the value of the housing, do we need more housing? What type of housing do we need? And with Electric Boat having $40 billion in contracts in 20 to 25 years of work, that certainty brings investment. And we're seeing a lot of housing projects. I think we're over 1,000 units at this point, and that's from everything. That's from market rate to some. We're seeing some workforce housing. We're seeing some affordable, deed restricted housing come to the market, which it's exciting. We're using old vacant properties. We're doing a better job than we have in the past in regards to planning our housing initiatives, and seeing our city move forward. So that's what we're actually seeing right now. Housing is the big deal. Now, along the waterfront is a whole nother level of investment that's happened that we haven't seen in decades, probably generations, starting with the State Pier. Obviously, that New London is going to be the epicenter for the state of Connecticut when it comes to offshore wind. And seeing that evolve is exciting. Right now, the state of Connecticut and Eversource Ørsted is investing $250 million, I believe, in redeveloping the State Pier. A lot of talks about the Coast Guard Museum. We're still optimistic to see that along our waterfront. That's going to be a big, when we're talking, as you mentioned, tourism. The Cross Sound Ferry is in downtown. That's over 500,000 boots to the ground. That's people coming to New London and Block Island and using our ferry service. Our water taxi is there as well. We opened up a new restaurant on our Custom House pier this summer, which has been very popular and successful. We're seeing a lot more boats tie up. And then now we've got Fort Trumbull being developed after 20 years. So all of this is happening all along the water with a combination of both, public and private development. So over $1 billion, and it's a very diverse list of projects. So we're busy, to say the least.
It's great to hear, Felix. Really excited to hear all of those new investments that are taking place. Kate, you're no stranger to transportation. You previously worked at the Connecticut DOT. We barely overlap by a couple months, but you've been in your role now for some time with the Southeastern Connecticut COG. And I'm wondering what you're seeing or hearing in terms of the evolution of the public transportation system, rail in particular. Can you talk about the importance of rail to your region?
Sure. Rail is within our long range transportation plan, and the Southeast COG has been consistently advocating for additional trains, as well as an extension of our Shoreline East service into Rhode Island, and that's been going on for longer than I've been here for sure. Just recently, COVID has put a big damper on rail riders. The ridership has dropped off. In response to that, the good fiscal management meant that there were also going to be fewer trains running. We were really excited to see that those schedules have kind of rebounded a little bit from DOT. So we'll give you a thank you for that. And something that's really notable is that all of the trains that are going to Old Saybrook from New Haven are also going to New London. So that previously was not the case. We received about half of the trains that would come into Old Saybrook would continue on to New London, and that was a huge impediment to people riding on the rails. If you only have 4 or 5 different trains that you can get home on in the evening, and you have to leave by 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night from your job, that may not be a reasonable solution for you, and will therefore increase the number of single occupancy vehicles on I-95, which can lead to the congestion that we see very, very frequently, especially during the summer. Southeast Cog is interested in participating in DOT's planning study for Shoreline East. We're going to be looking at extending service into Rhode Island as well as north along rail lines from New London. It's something that we've been interested in for a long time, and there's a lot of interest in it, but it's also important to make decisions based upon reality and facts, and whether there is demand and whether it's environmentally and fiscally reasonable to extend service. So we're excited to look at those options. In terms of Shoreline East, coming into New London, you're coming right into the hub of New London from the Henry Hobson Richardson rail station. It is a beautiful structure, historic in nature, built in 1888, and it's potentially one of his best works, and it was certainly the last and largest of his railroad stations. You come in and you're seeing this landscape stretch across the skyline. You can see EB from there.
Kate, the Connecticut legislature recently passed a bill to direct the Department of Transportation to study rail improvements in southeastern Connecticut. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Constituents in our region had reached out to legislators, asking for a study to be done. And it's consistent with our long range plan as well, which is, for as long as we've been doing the plans, has said that, we want to maintain and enhance our rail service. Specifically, the legislation is guiding us toward looking at extending our service into Rhode Island and also potentially north from New London. And we have a lot of opportunities. Currently, the Shoreline East service is really focused on providing service to and from New Haven, but in southeastern Connecticut, we have just as many people going to Providence or Boston in the morning as we do going to New Haven. So we're looking at opportunities to reduce our vehicle miles traveled because we have a finite amount of space to expand our highway system. And we also, would like to have the green benefits of having good train service. And it also improves the economy to be able to have good train service as well. Even making it to the westerly train station would create some economies of scale because that's also an Amtrak station, and you would be able to get onto an Amtrak train at that point. Westerly also is a very walkable town, just like New London. There's many stations where you get off and potentially you may not be in a walkable environment. I can think of some on the Danbury branch line where you get off and you're like, okay, now what do I do? You need a car, but that's not the case in New London. In New London, you can literally walk from one end of town to the other in less than 40 minutes. I live at the south end of town, so I frequently use my bicycle to get to downtown. There's also bus service directly at the train station. We have ferries that are going to Block Island, Fisher's Island, and Long Island. So we have this nexus of different transportation options in New London, and we want to try and cantilever that over further east to look at options for Stonington and getting at least to the border, so that we can kind of build up those economies. And having good rail service is a generator for the economy.
We're very excited to partner with you on that study, and I think we're going to learn a lot as we move forward together in terms of who we might serve, and also defining what that service could look like in the future. I think it's pretty exciting when we think about New London. New London is in an enviable location in the Northeast, and rail is only growing stronger in this corridor. Amtrak has some big plans for expanded service, including new Acela trains that are going to be coming next year. So we're all very excited about that at the DOT. Well, I'd like to dive a little deeper on the local economy, because what's exciting to me when I think about Connecticut is we have these regions, and everyone tends to know the Greater Hartford area as the insurance capital of the country, and we hear a lot about Fairfield County and the economy down there being tied to New York City. But New London and the greater New London area in its own right is a powerhouse. Highly skilled defense sector jobs, tourism. So could we just talk for a moment about that? Because I think outside of Connecticut, that doesn't seem to get as much attention. And I'm curious if that's an opportunity, or either of you see that as an opportunity to promote companies to come here to Connecticut.
I'll start with that. Yeah, EB is one of the major industries. Also, you have to look at L&M and Yale and the colleges as well. We have a huge sector and market for professional jobs. New London balloons another 10,000 people during the day. We have the jobs. You can see that Southeastern Connecticut, that New London is the hub where people to actually go to work in a very diverse sector of industries and jobs. So in regards to the tourism aspect of that, that is something from the city side of things. We're just starting to invest in tourism and marketing. Some amazing things have happened in the city of New London. It's a very old city, from the whaling industries to the Revolutionary War, through the Industrial Revolution. The city of New London has been part of America's history and has been a vital part of that. And that history can still be told today, and you can still see it. There's still remnants of it everywhere. So we really are focusing on tourism. We're great friends and great neighbors with Mystic, but we also feel that New London is a tremendous tourism destination.
I'm really intrigued by that, the possibilities there, and how we can promote this region to the rest of the country. It's a fantastic place to live, great natural resources, great quality of life, great schools. What's not to like? A little bit maybe more about what the future holds for the region in terms of transportation. So we talked about the rail study and improving rail access. And Kate, you spoke a little bit about walkability and bike lanes. If you could sort of imagine the future for this area, where do you think the priorities should be, and where do you think we should invest?
Well, I think that we should really be investing in transit as well as bicycling and walking infrastructure. And we also need to consistently be maintaining what we already have as well. So the call is is a big one. It will be a heavy lift to do all of that. So in terms of being strategic about it, the federal government typically pays for capital improvements in transit, and one of the biggest challenges is operations. The amount of money that it takes to put drivers into the driver's seat of a bus and get them out on the road is a big lift, and we need to drive down our headway times. Right now on our seat district, it is about an hour, sometimes 2 hours between buses on any given route, and that's really too sparse of service to really rely upon unless it's really your last resort. And so I think that bus transit is a big area where we should be spending money. We also need to look at how resilient our train system is to natural disasters. The Northeast Corridor is right along the shoreline and is impacted by wave surge and rising tides. So that is something that we need to consider. And while we do those things and we fix all of our bridges and maintain pavement, we also need to really refocus our transportation network on being accessible for people who are not in vehicles. We have a system that was created for the 1950s, the 1970s, where people were getting cars and moving out to the suburbs, and the suburbs were developing. But what we've lost is our physical health and our mental health, being in cars all day, and we can really regain some of that if we're able to reprioritize our transportation dollars to provide facilities for biking and walking that not just able-bodied people, but also small children and those with disabilities are able to access. We've recently done a bicycle and pedestrian plan for the region, and what we found was that we have a lot of sidewalks, but there's a lot of places where we have gaps in the sidewalks or the ramps aren't there. So if I'm in a wheelchair, how do I get off of the sidewalk or how do I get back onto the sidewalk? And, it's also a matter of standards continually changing. So in New London, there used to be a bike lane on Lower Boulevard, and it was 3 feet wide. Well, now the standard is 5 feet wide, and if you try and put a 5 foot wide bike lane on that road, then you're going to lose parking. So there's a lot of choices that the designers and the town and citizen participants can have an input. Hopefully, have to go through to look at and make choices about what kind of facility they want. But we definitely need to make our roadway system more accessible for cyclists and for walkers. We need marked routes. We need bike lanes. We need bike parking. We need sidewalks where they make sense, and we need off-road paths where those make sense. So being context sensitive is really important. Our region has urban areas, suburban areas, and very rural areas. And the facilities that are right for New London may not be right for Waterford, even though they're, just minutes down the road. It might not necessarily work as well.
Reconnecting communities is definitely something that, resonates with us at the DOT. It's not only about traffic, right? It's about improving the quality of life for everyone, all users of the road network. So thank you for sharing that. The other observation I'll make is the shift that's happening right now in how people live and work. There is a change with COVID. We've seen it in the ridership numbers. You alluded to that, Kate. Ridership on the Shoreline East has dropped off. It's dropped off just about everywhere on public transportation. And the big question is, what will work look like beyond COVID? And so I think that's an opportunity, frankly, if hybrid schedules, the idea of working a day or two from home, if that really sticks and employers do allow some of their workforce to do that, I think that opens up new opportunities to attract new residents who may have not considered New London, for example, because it may have been too far from employment centers, say in New Haven or Boston. But now if you only have to make that trip 1 or 2 days a week, maybe that's doable. Felix, back to you. Federal money's headed our way. Where do you see the needs, investment needs in New London and beyond?
I know in New London, we do a pretty good job. We bond money every year we have a $2 million sidewalk program. And if you drive down a lot of our neighborhoods, now that the plants are back open with COVID restrictions a lot less, we were able to do a lot of catch up work. So a lot of sidewalks and roads that needed a lot of work were finally done this year. So honestly, in regards to and federal investment, I really think technology has to be at the forefront. Really using technology in regards to how we run our intersections. That has a lot to do with customer experience. It's like with any city, you bring in people, and you have to treat them like customers, and what's their experience of driving in New London, and is it positive, is it negative? Is when you go into a JC Penney, or a Macy's, what's the customer experience? Are the lanes clean? Is there stuff in the way? Is clothes off the rack? When people come into the city of New London, there's the streets, are they filled with potholes? Are the intersections, are you sitting at the light for forever? These are all things that stick with people. So I'm big on making sure that we use technology to make sure that the customer experience is positive, so people come back. That's one thing. Infrastructure, technology is important, and I agree with Kate that if we're going to build, let's build smart. Let's not build so then we have we give the next generation an expensive maintenance project in the future. Let's be really smart about the materials that we use, and be very strategic in our projects. Be very kind of holistic in thinking.
Great perspective there, and just also if I'm not mistaken, Connecticut College to the New London train station is just under 2 miles, which is very walkable. And yet, without these improvements, it's really not possible. So, Felix, we're aware of a micro transit program, which is a hot term in the industry. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that micro transit program that's coming?
Sure. So I'll give you a little bit of content on how we got there. So Seat is the bus company that comes through New London. It has limited routes and stops. And recently, for the past few years, we just see less ridership, and that may have to do with just lack of convenience. We have some direct routes when the Crystal Mall was kind of a true kind of a powerhouse where everyone shopped at. That's no longer the case. We still have Ocean Beach, which a lot of people use. We do have a station in downtown, but it's very limited. It's very limited. And one thing that we're seeing is that we're a densely populated community. It's very walkable, but our central business district and our downtown is where people want to be at night, right? With the Guard Art Theater. And again, I'm speaking pre-COVID, and things are building up. But prior to COVID, the idea of this microtransit was really, the Guard Art is having a show there on a Friday night. You live in the South End where Kate lives, and she wants to go to a restaurant and not have to get in her car and just go down there with her family, watch a show. We have the ability to do that. So the thought of a micro transit system is to really, it's kind of like a pooled Uber. It's going to be on your phone. You just dialing in, hey, I'm on the corner of X and Y street. You get in the kind of the shuttle bus, and it takes you to downtown. And then when you're done at watching the show, restaurant, you get back in there, boom, and it drops you back off. And it's just going to be just a transit system within the city. And we're excited about this because really it's going to help out our youths, going to the community center. It's going to help our seniors going to the senior centers, getting groceries, not having to, worry about where am I going to find parking or paying for parking. It's the convenience of having something on demand, and that is a game changer for a community like New London. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm very excited about that. That's new. So I'm interested to see how that affects and helps our small businesses.
In the future, very likely, we're going to begin to see more of these on-demand services people love so much. You don't have to live or organize your life around a bus or a train schedule, and that's pretty cool. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to both of you for some closing thoughts. Felix, why don't you go first?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. These podcasts are always exciting, and thank you for the listeners taking the time to hear a little bit more about New London. I'm always excited. I am a big proponent. I'm an ambassador of the city, and my optimism is extremely high. Where we're going, the investment that's coming to our city, people should be very excited. We have a great relationship with Kate and the COG. They are excellent partners, whether it's helping us with intersections, roads, parks, advice. Their planning services and their partnership is vital to the growth of our city. So thank you, Kate, for all the work that you do for the city of New London. It's greatly appreciated. And to all the listeners out there, come visit us. New London is a beautiful and vibrant city with beautiful people that can't wait to meet you. Thank you.
Felix, really glad to have you on the program. So good to talk with you today. Kate, back to you.
Rich, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to talk with you guys. We look forward to working in the future with DOT on transit issues. And as Felix said, our relationship with our towns is so critical. We are so lucky to have great participation from all of our 22 municipalities and our affiliate members as well. And it's been really a pleasure to try and facilitate where we can to lift up some of these great visions that the City of New London is implementing.
Kate, thank you so much. Again, Kate Rattan from the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments and Felix Reyes from the City of New London. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. On these podcasts, I always learn something new, and that's certainly true today. Remember, you can find previous episodes of Along the Lines on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. I'm Rich Andreski. Join us next time for another episode of Along the Lines. Thanks for listening to this episode of Along the Lines. This is your host, Rich Andreski. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please remember to subscribe and share.